Welcome to part 6 of modeling an acoustic guitar in Fusion360. In this part we're going to model the bottom, which will share a lot in common with the radius top we modeled in the previous video. So let's get going. Okay, let's build the bottom. This is pretty easy after doing the top because it's got a lot of similarities. It's got a lot less stuff. Because we're not on my bottom, I'm not doing a purfling, and of course there's no cutout for the tenon, and there's no cutout for the sound hole or any of the purfling and all that goes around the sound hole. So I'm going to back up the timeline. The first thing we're going to do is pull in we're going to derive some things. We're going to derive the acoustic guitar parameters. We're going to derive the top and bottom parameters, and we're going to derive from the top that we made. We're just going to go get, I'm going to open that up so you can see, we're going to go get the sketch. So from the top we're going to just derive sketch 1, which is the just the shape of the dreadnought. Okay, so cancel that and get rid of that and don't save that. Okay, so then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create an offset plane off of the base. Just go down the thickness of my bottom, and then what I'm going to do is my first sketch is just going to be a projection off of that sketch 1. I'm going to project in the shape onto my first sketch, and that's all that goes in there. Okay, let's turn that sketch on. So then once we're done with that, we don't need sketch 1 anymore. We've got sketch 1, and then on sketch 2 what we're going to do is when we did the top, let me bring the top in real quick just so we can take a look. When we cut out the top, we did it on that plane. So our radius is created from a flat plane, so this is sitting perfectly level. Now the bottom and the top, they're not evenly spaced from front to back, right? So at the heel we're only at say I think 3.75 inches, and at the heel we're 4.75. So we want that bottom to slope up to the heel. So the next sketch is just creating some construction lines that set the angle basically of where we're gonna sweep that bottom. We want to make sure that we model the bottom at that angle because we're going to use cutting tools to cut it out, and we want to make sure we get the right dimensions from that cutout. I don't know if that makes sense, but if we just modeled it flat, it wouldn't be quite as long as it would modeling it at this angle. So maybe that clarified what I was trying to say, I hope, to where it makes sense. So all I did was off of the shape, I took this point, went straight up. For the variable here is body height at tail, and made that perpendicular to my center line of the body, and then I did a perpendicular line across there for the length of the body, and then I did another perpendicular line down for the height at the heel. Okay, so that makes sense. And the whole point was just to get this one point right here that defines where that angle is going to be. So the tail of the bottom will be at this point, and the heel will be at this point. Make sense, I hope? Ask questions in the comments if I'm not making sense there, but hopefully that's clear. So now we have these two sketches, and then the next sketch we're going to do is we're going to draw our radius of the bottom. So that is nothing but an arc. We're going to create a 3-point arc. We're going to choose this point and this point, and then we're just going to drop that out here, and then we're going to set that radius to our bottom radius. That should all make sense if you watch the top demo, but tell you what I'll do is I'll go ahead and delete that. The only thing in this sketch is that 3-point arc, so let's just go ahead and draw it just so I make sure I'm clear. I'm going to select this point, I'm going to select this point, I'm going to just create an arc here. I'm going to grab a dimension, I'm going to throw a dimension on that, and that dimension is going to be my bottom radius. And of course it throws it out here in space. I'm going to have to go get it and bring it back in here and tuck it in here where I like it. Okay, so that's all there is to this sketch. Let's go ahead and back up, and we're going to get out of that sketch, and then I'm going to create, now on this point right here, I'm going to create a plane on path. So this plane on path, we're going to select that point. Right there is our, I'm sorry, not that point. We're going to select this arc that we just created as our path. And we're going to make sure that our distance is set to 0. Tangent doesn't matter because we only got the one entity here. Okay, so cancel that. And then we're going to create another sketch on that plane on path. Not really sure why it likes to do that, where it turns this on an edge, but it has something to do with that plane. But basically what we're going to do here, the only thing in this sketch, the two things in this sketch, first we're going to create a construction line, and we're going to make it midpoint to this point here, and we don't need to project that in. We can turn that sketch off. This point is the beginning of that path, so it's just there. We don't need to project anything in. We're just going to create a construction line. We're going to make it midpoint to that, and I've constrained it to a width of the lower bout width, but really I just did that to get it fully constrained. It doesn't need to be any particular length. It just needs to be anything in here that we can do a tangency to. So then we're going to draw this 3-point arc. I'll go ahead and delete this and we'll draw it. So again, the 3-point arc is simply going to be, I'm just going to draw it in space here to begin with. We want it to curve upwards. No, I'm sorry, downwards. We're going to make it midpoint to this construction. I'm sorry, not the construction line, excuse me. We're going to make it midpoint to that point that defines the path. So we're going to choose that and make it midpoint here. Then we need to make it tangent to this construction line. So we're going to select the arc and make it tangent to that. And then we want to put a dimension on it of lower bout width. That's the widest point on the guitar, so that's basically what we're doing. We're just making it as wide as the guitar. Okay. And then the last thing we want to do is we want to put our radius on it, which is the bottom radius. So that's that. Then we're done with that. We finish that sketch, and then we're going to do a sweep. And because I changed that is why it's yellow. So we're just going to fix that. The profile is this arc that we created right here. we're going to say, I'm sorry, let me open that back up. I just want to make sure that we're going to do a perpendicular. Our distance is 1 because we want it to go the full distance. So our profile is that arc that we just created there, and our path is this path, the one going the length of the guitar. Okay. So once we're done with that, we have a radiused rectangle basically. So now what we want to do is we're going to use our profile of the guitar down here, the outline of it, and we're going to do a split body, and we're going to use our splitting tool is going to be the shape of the dreadnought, and the face to split is going to be that we just created. And then we're going to delete all of these pieces that it cut. So we're going to take all of these, and we're going to hit the delete key and make those go away. Okay, once we've done that, I'm going to turn off that sketch now, and we have a surface body that represents our bottom, and it is angled the way we want it to from the tail to the heel. So we're going to thicken that now up the amount of our thickness. You're going to use our thickness parameter, and we have our basic bottom. So we're going to say okay there, and now we have our bottom. And now this bottom is full width all the way, including the binding. So now what we want to do is we're going to create an offset on this outside edge, and we're going to make it 0.1 inches or whatever the width of our sides are going to be. I don't have that set as a parameter here, but it probably should be. So we're going to do our split body now, and we're going to choose our body as our body to split, our bottom, and the splitting tool is going to be that edge that we created, that offset. So now we have two bodies. We have the bottom here, and we have the binding out here on the outside edge, but that binding isn't thick enough, so we need to make that twice the thickness of our bottom. So we're going to create an offset off the binding, off of the bottom, off of this surface. I'm going to select that surface right there, and then we're going to thicken that. And so what we have now is we have a full binding that we just turned off, and we have the other one which was a half a binding. Does that make sense? So we want to turn off everything here except for our bottom and our full binding. Okay, so then the last thing I do here is that I'm going to create an offset from the original binding top that was unsplit. Let's turn off our hard sketches so we can see. So this is our, I want to create a second set that is split that I'm going to use when I create my sides. So I've chosen this original offset, and I've done an offset at a distance of 0, and then I did a split body on that using the using that body, and then using for a cutting tool I'm using that offset that I used to create my binding. Okay, and so with that then I end up with these two parts that I'm going to turn off here and not use here, but I will use those when I create my sides. And that's it. That's the bottom. So that's it for the bottom. It's a relatively short video this time. Appreciate you watching. Next up will be the sides, so stay tuned. and hit subscribe and like if you're so inclined. Thanks, and see you down the road.